The base is dropped on a new edition of Soccer Down here, March 26th. It's a U.S. men's national team match day as they host Chile in Houston tonight. We'll be getting into that, what we'd like to see, what we won't see. Weston McKennie, might not see him again for the rest of the Bundesliga season. Tyler Adams also headed back to Germany. So there will be some different faces in the lineup tonight for the United States. We'll probably talk a little bit about Mexico and Paraguay. There's a couple different storylines that are interesting in that one. Mexico's coming off of a big win in Tata Martino's first match, and he's going to see a couple old friends on the Paraguayan side in Tito Villalba, who did not play in their first game over the international break, and Miguel Almiron, who did play. So we'll get into all that on the international break edition of the show, but there's some news on the Atlanta United front that we need to get into to start things off. A friend of the show, Doug Robertson, yesterday over at the AJC tweeted out that Atlanta United and Julian Gressel's contract negotiations have stopped. Now, here's where things stand at the moment. He has a contract option for 2020, and that's at the club's discretion. I would be absolutely shocked if they decided not to pick up that contract option. So, essentially, he is under contract through next season. Listed as making $111,250 as of September. That was in the last published numbers from the Players Association. Probably a jump going into 2019. Not sure how big of a jump it will be. But, I mean, John, this is kind of how these things go in terms of contract negotiations. He has another 18-plus months on his contract. When you start looking at things in a long-term strategy standpoint, he has time, but that time is drawing a little shorter. You don't want to get into the Luciano Acosta situation where right now he's drawing interest from Fenerbahce, according to reports out of Turkey. He's in the final year of his contract, and when you get to the summer window, he could sign a pre-contract with Fenerbahce and leave on a free at the end of the deal, at the end of the 2019 season, and DC United gets nothing. Atlanta United's not near that stage yet. You have 2 more windows before you get to that stage.
And players, sometimes you'll hear in different sports the player wants to focus on what's going on the field, doesn't want to be distracted by this kind of a thing. And you understand that as well. And there's also the new collective bargaining agreement coming up that has to be kind of in the rearview mirror a little bit. So there are a couple of things going on here, 2 more windows, and I wholeheartedly anticipate that option year is going to be picked up. And so
it's just don't even. No, it's going to be picked up. Like, don't even. They're not going to say, no, we're going to decline the option on a guy who has got to 25 assists faster than anybody in league history or close to it. No, he's under contract through 2020. That's what you have to work from. Don't even confuse people with saying it's not going to get picked up.
No. So there is time. There's time to work things out. And the information that we have is what everybody else has. So it's out there. And if the two sides with these 2 windows want to get something done, and the player wants to continue to stay here in Atlanta, and the team wants to have him continue to stay past the end of the option year, then something will get done. There's time.
No, I understand the folks being worked up about it. I mean, he's a very, very important player to this team.
No doubt.
25 years old. He's in year 3. He's outperformed the deal that he has. One thing about the deal that he has, you go back and look at the last couple draft picks at number 8 where he was picked. Brandon Bye was the pick last year, who has played a good bit for the New England Revolution, but you wouldn't put in this type of classification. Zach Steinberger was picked at number 8 in 2015, and he's in USL now. So it's not exactly common that this draft pick is a big hit. Andrew Tarbell was the one in 2016. Goalkeeper for San Jose, who's played some, but you would not say he's outperformed his contract. You wouldn't say Brandon Bye has, and Steinberger's out of the league. So the deal that he got, which was 3 years plus an option year, that's pretty substantial for this pick because it doesn't always happen that way. So that's number one. He was not a sure bet coming out of college. A lot of people said that Atlanta United reached for him. And most mock drafts had him going in the middle of the first round, not at number 8.
I remember our draft day show.
Yeah, I mean, it was a surprise. And he's absolutely lived up to every bit of it. So, the other part that you mentioned that I think is incredibly important when it comes to this is that collective bargaining agreement. It expires at the end of the 2019 season. I think technically it expires in January of 2020. That is going to have a huge impact on how this deal is sorted out. You know, is the cap going to go up dramatically? Is allocation money going to get folded into the cap? Is there going to be a different way to deal with allocation money? Are there going to be new roster rules that come up out of this discussion to keep players like a Julian Gressel, who has developed in this league, who has performed in this league? Is there going to be a way to incentivize teams to re-sign these types of players? I think it's very smart for Atlanta United to wait till that CBA is done because you might have some different mechanisms to be able to deal with this. And you have the option. That's the thing, is he's not out of contract at the end of 2019. He's out of contract at the end of 2020. You control if you want the 2020 season, and you obviously are going to take it. So that CBA is the thing that makes this tricky. And if you are Atlanta United, you are hoping that the CBA gets done fast as opposed to slow, so you have more time to deal with what the potential mechanisms are going to be. But that's where I keep coming back to is before you know what the cap's going to be in 2020, before you know, are we going to have more targeted allocation money? Are we going to have more general allocation money? Are they going to be folded together? Is it all going to be folded into a cap? There's a lot of big questions, and this is the kind of deal that they're going to really relate to. And this is the kind of deal that I think the Players Association really is focused on right now, because you've seen many players come through the league and get to this point, and it's hard for them to maximize the salary that they could get because of the way free agency is structured, because of all the different things in the league rules. This type of situation is going to be a big discussion. And until you know how it's going to shake out, it's hard to make a deal right now. I think it really is. So that's where you're at. You've got 18-plus months under contract, and it's not too much of a surprise. Now, the thing that's tricky is, let's say the deal gets done in January of 2020. Then you're in the last year of the deal. You need to get a new deal done. You don't want to get to that summer window before he's out of contract, when somebody can come in from outside the league and sign him to a pre-contract and he walks at the end of 2020. You don't want to be in that situation. That's why the CBA really complicates things. That was my first reaction when I saw this is, man, this is the kind of deal that the CBA should really be addressing, and we'll see in what way they do.
No, completely agree with you here. And it makes total sense for the player and his agent to keep an eye on the CBA for 100%. Their own benefit.
Yeah.
And it makes total sense for the team. Doesn't matter what team we're talking about, because I'm sure that each team has their own separate situation that they're going to keep an eye on as the CBA is coming to a close and up for renewal. But for the team to sit there, and how do you keep important assets in and around so you're not having to sit there, do a contract, new CBA, players mad because of something that showed up in the new CBA that neither side looked at going in. So you have to do things all over again. It makes sense for the prudence here on both sides to see what the teams are going to be getting out of the new CBA and how they can benefit, and for the players to benefit with salary structures and all that kind of stuff. So I think both sides laying out is the best play here, but obviously, both sides like each other. So this isn't any kind of a contentious relationship at all. So just, it's 2 more windows, CBA negotiation, a lot of stuff in play. Just both sides laying out's the best play here.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense both ways. I was coming at it more from the club perspective about the CBA, but you're right. The player doesn't want to sign a deal either because at this stage, you might get a scenario in the CBA where the player takes a lesser deal because he wants to stay with the club, but in the new CBA, the club could have given him more money, and you didn't have that bargaining chip before. So it makes a ton of sense all the way around, and I'm not surprised by this on either side. I think it's smart for both sides to wait it out on the CBA, and once that's done, then you need to get something done quickly, and that's where it's tricky, and that's where you hope that you can at least lay the groundwork for. Look, we want to sign a long-term deal. Look, we want to stay. Okay. We know where we're coming from. Now, let's see what mechanisms we're going to have to work with. And you want to get that done as quickly as possible once it's all wrapped up.
And, with Julian being newly married, he's got a different set of priorities than he did when he signed the deal in the first place. And you look at things differently when you have that marriage prism there, too. So, there's other things in play, but laying out to me was the play for all sides.
Yeah, it just makes sense. So I'm not surprised by it really in any way, and we'll see how it shakes out down the road. That 2017 draft could end up being one of the best in recent history, at least when you get down to number 9, let's say, your first 9 picks. Abu Dunladi's had injuries. He hasn't really broken through at Minnesota. We know about Miles Robinson now. Jonathan Lewis has been getting national team call-ups. Abobasi started in the MLS Cup final. He's been playing for the U23s. Lalas Abubakar's played a lot of minutes for Columbus. Jackson Ewell has played for the U23s. I think he got a good bit of time last year. I really like his game. I want to see him take the next jump. Jake Nerwinski's played a lot for Vancouver, a good right back. Potentially a national team type of guy could be looked at. Then Julian Gressel, then Nico Hansen in Columbus, who's been a good player off the bench, a good reserve for the Crew. You don't see that very often. Look at last year's draft. I think this group probably contributed more in year one than the 2018 draft did. And when you keep going further back, you see how difficult it is to hit on these types of guys. I was honestly really surprised that Gressel had as long of a deal. Tofka just commented on that as well. It's not all that common for guys to get that long of a deal where Julian was drafted.
Usually it's half that size.
Usually it's a year with an option, sometimes 2 with an option. And that's what I was expecting, was 2 with an option. So it's not a shock that you're in this situation. I think people's alarm bells go off when they see headlines like this and they see stories like this. And with that CBA looming, that's what makes it understandable to me. That's what changes this dynamic from just your average contract negotiation.
And, you look at this, it doesn't matter what the sport is. And when you see a player who is as endearing and as loved as Julian Gressel is and has all of the different aspects of the career, both on and off the pitch, that he's been able to develop here in Atlanta. And every time Mike has a call that involves Julian, there's always, Twitter, I think Twitter explodes. I think it's safe to say when Mike will do that particular call. But so when fans have this attachment to a player and you see a headline like that, brains have a tendency to go faster. And right now it's just, it's all right. Everything's cool. And there's still time to work with here. And both sides are looking at that CBA to figure out, all right, here's where the player is going to be coming from. Here's where the team's going to be coming from. Here's where the CBA has changed. Let's get something done.
Yeah, the CBA, we talk about MLS from a big picture standpoint quite often, and the CBA is the next really big picture item for Major League Soccer's growth. When you look at what can come out of this deal, do you completely restructure how contracts, how allocation money, how buying guys down, how designated players, how all that stuff? Do you really rewrite stuff? I mean, no, I don't know. I mean, they might not. The Players Association probably is not necessarily lobbying when it comes to those types of things. They want their members to have more money given to them, and they want their members to have more freedom of movement. Those are, two of the really big things here. So this CBA could go so far in changing the way that MLS functions. And I think then you have that next TV deal that'll come up in a couple of years after. And that's another one, along with what you do for expansion past your 28 teams. There's some big steps coming for the league. And we talked about the attendance around the league yesterday. And that's been a big talking point. And you have the people who are saying, it's all doom and gloom, it's all crumbling down, but then you look at the growth of the league and you're like, wait a minute, no, it's not. Because it's not. But this is a critical time. I think if the league wants to continue this trajectory of really impressive growth from, we'll start with Seattle coming in. Actually, no, we'll go back to Toronto, where MLS 2.0 started. I think Real Salt Lake kind of planted some seeds for it, but it was really Toronto where you started to get a different feel for the league around 2007 or so. If you want to continue that growth from Toronto coming in, which Toronto was, the number 13 or 14 team in the league, and now you're going to get to 26 next year with Miami
double.
And Nashville. If you want to continue that, and you want to continue MLS becoming, a league of choice, Major League Soccer becoming the biggest league in this hemisphere, if you want to continue that trajectory, you have to get the CBA right. And you can't allow for any kind of a strike or anything like that. You have to make some hard decisions and continue on the path and keep the players happy. You have to get this next TV deal right, and it's going to be extremely complicated because you have streaming partners coming into play, and we see the pushback on streaming partners from some in the fan base. We also see it being embraced by others. That's something the league is going to have to balance. It's a tough time for the league on TV right now. They haven't had awful drops right now in the first couple of weeks. TV ratings are down a few weeks in. I would actually look at that Saturday night doubleheader that FS1 had as not a great decision in terms of trying to base your overall ratings on. You know what I mean? Like, I think it brought the cumulative down a little bit on the early going. Long term, I think it plays out fine. The league has been steady on TV, where other sports properties have not. Steady where the league is on TV, though, is not that great. You want to start to grow. So TV is going to be tricky. It's a very interesting time for the league. I think the league is long past that worry that, okay, it's just not going to work. People are going to bail out. It's not going to happen. You're past that. The league's not going anywhere. The league can continue to grow if things are done right. Or it can kind of stay where it is, which isn't bad, but I think we all feel like there's an opportunity here. And if you nail the CBA, if you nail the TV deal, you get your expansion right and your long-term strategic plan for that, you're going to be in a position to keep players longer. You're going to be in a position to sell players for good deals if it's the right deal. You're going to get better players coming in. You're also going to be developing better players along the way. It's a really exciting time for the league, but there's some tough decisions coming up.
And it's, when you have tough decisions tied to growth, those are some of the toughest decisions because it's a multiple choice test and you've got to get the right answer if you want to continue moving in a direction that you've been going. If you don't choose wisely, then growth is stunted, it is pulled back, and everything that you've built to a certain point could fall backwards. And for MLS right now, you have to look at this in three dimensions if you're MLS, because there are a lot of things when it comes to the players' activity, player contracts, expansion, who is the properly vetted owner when it comes to looking at cities and things like that. Everything across the board. How do you want to handle your rosters? How do you want to handle players? How do you want to bring in DPs? How many DPs do you have? What's your salary cap? What's your allocation money? All of these questions, and you've got to take the right steps for all of them if you're going to continue going forward the way that you have. So it's a big time, and here at SDH HQ, our looking glass, at least our first step in the looking glass, is this Julian Gressel contract and how it gets worked when the new CBA comes to the fore.
Let us know what you're thinking out there on Twitter. We're going to take a quick break right here. We'll be right back.
Today's show is presented by Appolinsky & Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yep, he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service, Ad Council, and your state forester.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency, or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Every hiring manager knows that a company is only as good as the people it's made from. So where do you find the best people? That may surprise you.
Meet the grads of life. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
This is talent worth knowing about.
Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
Welcome back. Soccer Down here. Talking Julian Gressel contract situations and the bigger picture of the CBA coming up. We'll talk a lot about this as it continues. We know that negotiations had started between the Players Association and the league, which is a good sign as far out as they did. So we also know that the players have said, hey, maybe they gave in too much, too fast last time around. The free agency situation that they earned this in the last deal, which was their main sticking point, it's pretty limited. And I think everybody's kind of operating under the assumption that will expand going forward, but how much? It's going to be interesting. It's a big situation for the league. And the last thing I wanted to say on it, you talked about how hard of a decision it is because it's not a straight line decision. You have, option A, B, C, D. You can keep going. I think it's the toughest decisions that Don Garber's had to make it with the league. I think it's tougher than the decision he made early on that he got right with contracting Tampa Bay and Miami. Because that was yes or no. That was either we're going to continue with this and we're going to have to find some money fast to operate these teams, or we're not going to and we're going to reset. That was a simple A-B decision. This is not. So I think this is
how much, and
it's 3-4 different things not happening at the same time, but you have to look ahead. I mean, when you're doing the CBA and you're dealing with a salary cap and what type of spending you're going to allow, you have to look ahead to, okay, how much more money are we going to make in a TV deal? Do we have an idea yet? So it's very difficult in that, and we'll see how Don Garber handles it. We'll see how the league handles it. It's going to be a fun one to watch if you're into the sports business side of it. Let's get into a couple questions. Kyle Soto asked, will Bello and Escobar get the start on Saturday? We saw Escobar play, I think, on-field action about 55 minutes. There was a long delay before his substitution, but he was up at about the 55-minute mark and then played first half stoppage time. So 55 minutes, we'll say. Didn't look tired. Didn't look
tentative.
Didn't look tentative at all. Didn't look sharp, which is to be expected. First touch was a little rough at times. I don't know if he gets the start. It's probably going to depend on how this week of training goes. It's a little iffy. Is he available? I would say yes. I would say he's in the 18 for it. The twos don't play this weekend, so that helps make it a little bit easier of a decision because you're not thinking, well, I could get him 90 here or I could get him maybe 10 or 15 with the first team if I use him as a sub. So I think he's in the 18. Bello did not play for the twos over the break. That's a little concerning about where he is right now coming back from injury. So I'd say it's a lot less likely for Bello to get the start on Saturday. I'd say for Escobar, 50-50, but a lot of it's going to depend on how training goes this week.
Yeah, for me, it's available and working forward. For Bello, it's the hands up, shrugged shoulder emoji because we don't know where he is health wise right now.
Considering we didn't see him, I don't think there's any chance Bello's starting on Saturday. No. I'd be shocked about that.
Yeah, and C depends. Start, no. Escobar, maybe start. Available, yes.
Let's see what else we have on the Twitters thus far. Nathan Pugh's threatening to throw toilets if Atlanta doesn't win on Saturday. If you
only
have not
one.
Seen that. No, I think there were multiple thrown.
He's only throwing.
He's throwing one. Well, we'll see how the game goes. Maybe he throws more if he really doesn't like it. If you haven't seen that, it was from a Newell's Old Boys match over the weekend where they lost to a 4th Division team in the Copa Argentina, and their fans went nuts. Trashed another team's stadium. It wasn't the other team's stadium. It was a neutral site stadium, and now somebody who wasn't even involved in the match has to clean up the mess. It was ugly. It was just an awful scene if you love the game. And Franco Escobar is a Newell's guy. Tata Martino, longtime Newell's guy. This club has a lot of business they've done with Newell's and people from Newell's Old Boys. So absolutely hate to see that. And they've got a lot of issues at that club right now. So keep an eye on what's going on in Argentina with Newell's Old Boys and what sanctions could come from the match being suspended in the 90th minute where they were losing to Villa Mitre. So, yeah. We get back into MLS action this week, and we'll dig deeper into Columbus as we go. When you start to look ahead, though, one thing that's going to affect Columbus this weekend is tonight, United States and Chile from Houston. Greg Berhalter started both Will Trapp and Jossie Zardes in the first match. Do they both start here? How many minutes do they play? That's going to affect them in the next match. I remember specifically last go-round, Will Trapp had played for the national team in midweek before coming back to Columbus, and Berhalter was at Columbus at the time, played him in the match against Atlanta. I believe it was that Wednesday night match right before the World Cup started, and Trapp looked gassed, and he struggled to deal with the speed of the match. I'm going to be very interested to see how much Will Trapp plays tonight. Now, it wouldn't shock me a bit if Berhalter split the difference at the 6th position and he started Trapp in the first game. Bradley came on as a sub, if they flip that. If Bradley starts and Trapp comes in the second half or maybe doesn't come in. Jossie Zardes, there's not a ton of options up top for the U.S. right now. You could go Christian Ramirez and have Zardes come off the bench. But both of those guys are critical to the Columbus Crew. Case in point, their 3-0 loss to Philadelphia over the weekend.
Yee. It's the only word I can come up with for that.
That's about how it looked. I think trap is critical. They looked really bad in the middle of the field. Ricardo Clark at 36 cannot replicate Will Trapp and what he gives you. He's a different kind of player anyway, he always was, but Trapp is going to sit in front of that back four, and even though he's not the strongest defensively, he's going to give you cover. Both Clark and Artur wanted to explore a little bit and push forward, and they left gaps in the middle of the field that Philadelphia exploited. Go back and look at the first goal for a prime example. So I think Caleb Porter's probably fingers crossed that Will Trapp does not play a lot tonight, because I think Columbus is really going to struggle if Trapp is not 100% ready to go on Saturday.
And that also reminded me to look at my fantasy team to see if I had any Columbus people on there, and I currently do not.
We will get into the fantasy update in a little while from our friend, the commissioner, Jason Wright. We'll have that for you in hour number 2. Joe Patrick, unable to join today. He's on Braves duty because they have, a 1 o'clock start in their last spring training game, but it's a spring training game from here, which is always weird to me. But anyway, so Joe's on some baseball duty. He'll join us Thursday at 9:30, so we'll get caught up with Joe Patrick and Dirty South Soccer then. What else are you looking for tonight in the U.S. men's national team match with Chile? We've had a few days to let game 1 of this run marinate a bit. What do you want to see from Greg Berhalter's crew tonight?
Well, I want to see if the Tyler Adams experiment continues to bear the fruit that he's looking for. Right? Once again, you look at sample size, and you gotta come up with something as you're heading toward Gold Cup. I want to see that. I want to see what is DeAndre Yedlin up to. For me, I'm worried about firepower up top, and I know that Zardes is a part of that equation. The back is one of the least of my concerns, but I'm looking at Yedlin. I'm looking at Tyler Adams. I want to see what Sebastian Lletget.
Hey! Don't look too hard at Tyler Adams. We talked about it earlier. He's going back to Germany. No, he's not there. He's not playing.
That's true.
You can't look at him tonight. He's not playing.
I read that, and when you reminded me, I haven't had any caffeine yet.
It's all good. Here's what Berhalter said about that, because I know there were some questions about it. He said, I would look at Adams going back to Leipzig more as a collaboration in terms of setting out a long-term plan for the player with the club, identifying what our schedule is for the upcoming year, and saying, okay, we understand that you're in the middle of trying to qualify for the Champions League. We understand the importance for you. Here's what's important for us. Let's see what kind of arrangement we can come to. That's what you have to do. That's really smart from Greg Berhalter, because do you really need him tonight for a match that is a friendly? No. And Leipzig needs him more because they want him for the weekend. They're trying to get into the Champions League. But would you maybe want a Tyler Adams for the Gold Cup with no questions asked? Would you maybe want him for other things in the fall? Yeah, you would. So it's a give and take with these types of situations. It's a smart play from Berhalter, and he was in these situations as a player. He gets it. So this is good business by Greg Berhalter to let Tyler Adams head back to Germany early.
Yeah, and you're looking at, like I said, the back to me is the least of my concerns. I want to see how you're going to address things up top. Although you address something up top, and then everybody jets. So I mean, it's how are you getting ready for Gold Cup? I want to see progress, and I know that that's an incredibly nebulous term, but I know that Berhalter has something in mind. And I want to see how it continues to be something that he has in mind. And we know that there's going to be a boatload of lineup changes. How many? What's it going to look like? All that kind of stuff. Because I know that you're looking for dudes. And we know what Ethan Horvat's going to start tonight.
I don't know if that's definite.
And all right, so then who else? What, Nick Lima? With his role in January?
I think Lima comes in for Tyler Adams. I think you're going to see rotation. I think you're going to see a different back line. So I'm not I'm not saying that the back line's good because you're not thinking about these games that way. It's because Adams and Long and Brooks worked. You're not saying, well, we're just going to play them again. I think you're going to want to see other guys. So I want to see how the whole thing comes together. You need to see more from Jordan Morris.
Yeah.
And that's what's so hard about calling this is I don't think it's easy just to say that, well, this guy played well, he plays again. This guy didn't play well, replace him. I think you're still looking. You're still looking at guys because you haven't had a chance to see everybody. So if Morris plays, he's going to have to be better. Do you see Lovitz here instead of Ream? Maybe. Do you see different center backs? Maybe. Do you see Ramirez instead of Zardes? Maybe. Do you see Pulisic out wide? And this was something that Bobby Warshaw wrote a piece on at MLSsoccer.com, calling for Sebastian Lletget to play that number 10 role, that he can give you some of the nuance to that role that Pulisic, can give you, but maybe Pulisic can give you more out wide. I'm not quite so sure on Lletget in that role. I think maybe you're looking for some of the smaller things to justify that change. I think the bigger thing in that discussion is Pulisic's your best player, period. Pulisic is your best player as the number 10. He's your best player on the wing, period. If you had two of him, he'd play both. You don't. So where do you have more depth? Where is your number 2 option better? I think it's better out wide, and you play Pulisic centrally. Now, the two things that factor into this is you didn't get a ton from Pulisic in the middle in Game 1. Is he comfortable there? If he is, okay. If he wants to play there, okay, you're going to keep rolling with it. If he doesn't and he's not comfortable there, then you put him where he's comfortable because he's your face. You've got to play to his strengths first off. If he'd rather play out wide, then you're going to have to figure out who plays as the 10. And Sebastian Lletget would be one of the people that would be in that conversation for sure. So that's something long-term that I'm really interested to see how it plays out. Haven't heard anything from Pulisic. He hasn't really said anything about where he'd prefer to play. There were some hints about him saying or him talking to people or making it clear that he was more comfortable in the middle. I haven't seen a direct quote. And maybe that will change over time. I don't know. But that's something I'm looking for is what do you do with that group? Because you don't have Weston McKennie. So do you try Pulisic and Lletget together? Do you find a different combination and move Pulisic out wide because you don't have the Pulisic-McKennie combination you want? The lineup is probably the number one thing that I'm looking for tonight. What does Berhalter do to try to solve the issues that he's facing tonight? That's what I'm curious about.
So, like I said, for me, it's you have an idea. I want to see progress in your idea. I know the faces are going to be different / rotated, what have you. So, okay, what are you going to play with here? And who are you going to work with? And how is it going to work in this in this particular idea that you have that we saw flashes of a couple days ago? And like I said, I want to see your idea, and I want to see your idea continue to grow to what you're thinking of. And for me, it was a point that you made about Jordan Morris that is key in all of this. If you have 2 friendlies, just because someone doesn't perform well in that first friendly doesn't mean they should be blocked out of that second friendly, because if you're trying to grow something, I think that you need a greater sample size of an idea when it comes to particular athletes or just athletes in general. So
100%. But you got competition too, and Morris doesn't have that spot, and that's I think where you're at right now more than anything. And even Pulisic, I think Pulisic's in he's on your lineup card somewhere, no matter what. You can go ahead and print them out with
until
Christian
further
Pulisic
notice
on it. No, you can go ahead and print them out. It's done. He's there. You're not going to put a position, but he's there.
Yeah.
Beyond that, nobody's guaranteed. Nobody. I'd say Tyler Adams is really close. Right now, Weston McKennie's injured, so you're going to have to trash the lineup cards you printed out with his name on it. So maybe Tyler Adams is your next one that you're going to, again, and you don't have a position, but you're going to put him on that list. You're going to go ahead and pre-print them. Beyond that, anything. Nobody has a spot. And even Pulisic and Adams don't necessarily have a position to their spot yet. That's where you're at. So Greg Berhalter has to make a decision. Does he want to see if Jordan Morris can come back and perform better in Game 2, or does he say, well, I got to look at other guys? Because he doesn't have like a whole string of games here. He's got this one. Looks like he's going to have a couple of friendlies announced right before the Gold Cup. Mexico has announced some. Obviously, they'll be in Atlanta. The U.S. Has one that has been rumored. I don't remember the details on it. It's been rumored, but it hasn't been announced yet. You would think they'd probably try to get 2 before the Gold Cup starts. But that's going to be your Gold Cup squad. That's where you've already decided on what your roster is, and you're fine-tuning and maybe making some lineup decisions. So it's tough. I think he has to look at other people right now. And you're not judging it solely on what he does here with the national team. I mean, Jordan Morris has been lighting it up in MLS. That's what earned him the call-up. If he goes back to Seattle and continues to light it up, I think he'll be just fine for more call-ups. More on the U.S. men's national team, more on tonight's match, and just big picture as you get ready for a Gold Cup this summer. More questions about Julian Gressel, MLS, Atlanta United as well. Hang out with us. We'll be right back.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA is a national nonprofit working to transform youth and high school sports so that every child has a positive character-building youth sports experience. PCA provides live and online workshops to train double-goal coaches whose first goal is winning and whose second, more important goal is teaching life lessons through sports. PCA also has workshops for parents and high school student-athletes. For more information, please visit positivecoach.org.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinski of Apolinski & Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. This cat makes me make art. He's always motivating me to draw pictures of him. He just is motivating artistically. He's my best friend, but a lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
Keyboard Cat, YouTube star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Start yours today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
Welcome back. Soccer Down here. March 26th, U.S. men's national team match day. Let's get back into the Twitter timeline because Tuesday thoughts. You guys have some thoughts. Let's get to trains. Trains. I wanted to make sure we saw another black helicopter theory. Looks like Gressel will be our Kyle Larin. Options and soccer contracts won't be enforced, so he needs to be sold ASAP in the summer overseas or to a club that'll make him a high TAM/DP earner he deserves. Atlanta getting punished for bad contracts. Trains, to say this was a bad contract, I mean, I know you try to stir the pot, but this was not a bad contract. To give him a 3-year deal with an option is an unbelievably good deal for the player where he was drafted, and when you look at the history of players picked around that. So that's just incorrect. Also, the thing about options in soccer contracts won't be enforced. I don't see anything coming that you would expect Julian Gressel to challenge that. Kyle Larin did because Kyle Larin won it out of Orlando. That's a big difference. That's a huge difference. So I know what you're doing. I get it. It's something the club's going to have to deal with. But I think you're trying to find a couple things that just aren't here. It was a good contract for Julian Gressel at the beginning because usually number 8 picks aren't getting 3 years guaranteed plus an option year at the end of it. The option year side of it, you've had a couple people challenge it, and usually that challenge just results in a normal transfer. We haven't seen anything legal go to that and say that it's illegal because it's still happening in contracts. So, and they're not the same situation because Kyle Larin wanted out of Orlando at all costs to the point that he just literally left and forced the deal to get done. And it hasn't really worked out all that great for Kyle Larin on the other side anyway. No. So needs to be sold ASAP in the summer or overseas. If there's a deal that makes sense, go for it. But I think you really need to wait out the CBA because that could change the way you deal with these situations entirely. So I really disagree with the bad contract situation. That's not true. That's just 100% not true because go back and look at number 8, number 7, number 9, number 10 picks, and you're going to find a lot of them over the last 4 years that are no longer in the league. It's not typical to get the length of a deal that Gressel got. It's just not. You saw guys, first-round picks last year whose options were declined at the end of year 1. So, I mean, it was a 1-year deal with an option. So, stir the pot. That's cool. But, yeah, don't put stuff out like that. That's just not true because it's not a bad contract. Now, he's outperformed it. Nobody thought he would when that contract was signed. That's why it's not a bad contract. That's the whole situation here. Let's see. What else do we have? AA 5 Stripes is worried about 0-0 with 70% possession late in the game on Saturday. Says he'll puke. Please don't do that. And I hope we don't have that situation. This is going to be an interesting one in terms of strategy. And let's assume everybody's full strength and we're dealing with a full-strength Columbus Crew. They are not the possession-dominant team that they used to be. They're a team that is much more comfortable playing on the counter, and they'll sit deeper and try to hit you on the break. They don't attack and get forward in quite the same way either. It was a big talking point for me last year, and I know when I was on Fox Sports Southeast with Kevin Egan doing the game, we talked about it a lot. Columbus last year, their wingers in their 4-2-3-1 were very narrow, and that gave a lot of space to the outside backs to overlap. But then also they would flip it, and the winger would drift out wide, and the outside back would underlap and cut inside. So far this year, it has predominantly been the wingers out very wide. And you haven't seen as much of Harrison Offal, Waylon Francis getting involved in the attack in the same ways. That was a huge part of the Crew last year. It's not quite as much this year. I think a big reason is Columbus is sitting back more, and they're conceding some of that possession. So I do see a match where Atlanta has a lot of possession. You have to do more with it than we've seen lately in matches. That's absolutely a fact. You have to break this team down. Now, Columbus wants to sit back, and they have sat back more, but you're also dealing with 2 outside backs in Francis and Offal who really want to get forward, and that's their game. When they go and you're able to turn them over, you have to attack in that space. You have to take advantage of it, and those two they're there for what they give you when you go forward more than being lockdown defensive players out wide. So you can take advantage of them when you attack, and Atlanta has to. And if they do that, I think this is a Columbus team that they can take advantage of. And I think you can take advantage of Will Trapp. I think Trapp is best with the ball at his feet in space where he can pick out a long pass. I think if you're putting him under sustained defensive pressure where he has to defend, you take him out of the good things about his game. So Atlanta's had really good success against Columbus in the past. This is a different Columbus team. Caleb Porter is changing things a little bit about the way they play. I think it's a good matchup for Atlanta, but you have to perform. Flat out, you have to perform better. You have to penetrate the back line. You have to create more chances. Let's get one more before we go to our final break of hour one.
All right. Let's see. I mean, Tafka's on a bit of a roll.
Okay, well, hold that then, because that might take a minute. Sorry, Tafka.
Okay. Okay. Well, then, let's go to Katie.
Okay.
Katie Weaver. Having watched the men's national team thus far, do you see a place for Nagbe in this setup?
100%. I think the question is, do you prefer Nagbe or Weston McKennie? Because that's the role that I see for Nagbe in the way that they played in the last match. And that might not be the way that they play in every match, but the way they played the last one, that 8/10 role that McKennie was in is where I could see Darlington Nagbe. So I think he's an easy choice. I think he's a very good chance to be there in the Gold Cup. I do. And I think he gives you some of that you just don't have. Now, I don't see him in that number 10 role, although when you read Bobby Warshaw's description of what he's looking for in that role, Nagbe fits a lot of that. He checks a lot of those boxes about being able to play in tight space, quick control, quick passing. He does give you that, but he's never been a true number 10 in his career because he's not a guy who gets into the final third a lot. I think he can give you those things that Warshaw is saying Leggett gives you. I think he can give you a lot of that on the side of the 10 in the McKennie role if you're comparing it to the last match where it was Pulisic and McKennie. I think Nagbe can be really effective in that role. Now, McKennie might be more effective in that role, but right now McKennie is likely out for the rest of the Bundesliga season with Schalke, and that puts him and his Gold Cup participation at risk. I think Schalke is not going to want to see him rushed back into play in the Gold Cup if he doesn't play the rest of the Bundesliga season. So you're going to have another difficult discussion. That might open up an opportunity for Nagbe to get some key time and really impress Greg Berhalter this summer. But I'm with Katie. I think that's definitely one that he seems to be a perfect fit for that role. Let's take a break here. Let's get into more of Tuesday Thoughts right after this.
Today's show is presented by Appolinsky & Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service Ad Council and your state forester.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Every hiring manager knows that a company is only as good as the people it's made from. So where do you find the best people? That may surprise you.
Meet the grads of life. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
This is talent worth knowing about.
Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
Final segment, hour number 1, SDH, Tuesday Thoughts, March 26th. What are some of those Tuesday Thoughts on the Twitters, John?
Tafka's on a roll this morning.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. I mean, no, it's in a good way.
Okay,
he said it made sense for both sides to stall negotiations where Julian Gressel was concerned. I seriously doubt our front office refuses to give Gressel a fair raise. And then Tafka was thinking somewhere in the 800,000 range, maybe $1 million, guessing just shy of that. But he also said he was shocked.
Tough to put a number. Hold that thought. It's tough to put a number on it without knowing what the new CBA is.
Yeah.
I would probably lean to under the current CBA and looking around the league as that being a little high. I would probably say a low TAM deal would be what you'd be looking for with some escalators in terms of performance. That's a gigantic raise, which I think he's deserved, but maybe not quite to that degree. Now, if the cap goes up in a big way and then everything gets inflated, then it's a different conversation. But right now, I think you're probably looking at a low TAM deal is the type of numbers you'd be looking at.
And then he said that he was shocked Gressel had a 3-year deal plus an option. That's almost double the, quote, normal, end quote, draft pick contract for anyone other than the top pick. I think it showed just how much Atlanta United respected his quality.
Possibly. Could show just how good of an agent Julian had as well,
Yeah.
which is definitely possible. It is not common. I mean, it's just not outside of a Generation Adidas player, and Julian was not that. He was a senior out of Providence. So it was a really good deal for a player coming out of college. So he's outperformed it. That's where I'm at. He has 100% outperformed it and deserves a new deal and more money. You have to figure out a few things. I mean, you're in year 3. We talked about it coming into this year that you were going to have some tough decisions. This is one of them. You're going to have guys who are in the final year of their deal or going into an option year. You're going to have to renegotiate some guys. Some guys are going to be due for raises. How much room do you have? How much allocation money do you have to work with? You're going to have some tough decisions. That is the life of Major League Soccer, where it's not just you can keep escalating that payroll year after year just because you want to, because you like these guys. Sometimes you have to make some tough decisions on, okay, I do like this guy, but do I like him as much at this number as I did at this number? And if I don't like him as much at the bigger number, is there somebody else that I like at a smaller number just as much? And that's where it gets really tricky. And that's where you're going to have some decisions where you're going to have to make that one. And then you're back to your scouting department. And you're back to finding guys on good deals for smart money that fit and can step right in and perform. It's very difficult. This league is not structured for teams to go on a tear and dominate year after year after year after year, unless they're getting those types of decisions right. In the NFL, the Patriots are a prime example. You know, they have bucked the trend of having a window that opens and shuts. They've just broken the window and left it in the open position for a long time. That's not easy to do. We'll see how Atlanta handles it as you start to get into some of these cap issues going forward. Let's take the break here. We'll come back for hour number 2. More Tuesday thoughts with you guys after this. We'll get into some national team stuff. We'll get into some of the women's national team stuff as well. Roster is out for their games coming up in early April, some of the last games before the Women's World Cup. We'll get into all of that and the upcoming weekend in MLS right after this.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus, and Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA is a national nonprofit working to transform youth and high school sports so that every child has a positive character-building youth sports experience. PCA provides live and online workshops to train double-goal coaches whose first goal is winning and whose second, more important goal is teaching life lessons through sports. PCA also has workshops for parents and high school student athletes. For more information, please visit positivecoach.org.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinsky of Apolinsky & Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. This cat makes me make art. He's always motivating me to draw pictures of him. He just is motivating artistically. He's my best friend, but a lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
Keyboard Cat, YouTube star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Start yours today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Soccer Down Here daily on SDH Networks, a division of OSG Sports. Find us at Soccer Down Here on Facebook and Twitter. The time is now the top of the hour. Peep, y'all.
Welcome back. Hour number 2. Soccer Down Here. March 26th. Tuesday thoughts. What are your Tuesday thoughts? Do you have thoughts about the U.S. men's national team? Do you have thoughts about the U.S. women's national team? Do you have thoughts about Luciano Acosta going to Fenerbahce? Do you have thoughts about MLS? Do you have thoughts about Atlanta United? We'll get into any of them. Whatever you want to discuss, use the hashtag Tuesday Thoughts. Tweet at us at Soccer Down Here. I have some thoughts about the ridiculously awesome new kits that South Georgia Tormenta released yesterday.
Oh, that was strong.
The video that they did, too, that was a pretty cool video tying into the history of Georgia Southern football, playing off of that. It helps when Darren Van Tassel was a longtime professor at Georgia Southern. Mm-hmm. You know, you got some connections, you got some pull. So Tormenta with the Tormenta magenta accents on the kits.
Yeah.
It's a good-looking kit. They nailed it. The inaugural USL League One match will be played in Statesboro, Georgia, Friday night. You can watch on ESPN Plus if you are not in the Statesboro area. Hope it's a big crowd. Tormenta hosting Greenville Triumph. John Harkes brings his squad down. I think that's going to be a really good rivalry over the years. Two clubs that have a lot of similarities in what they're trying to do and the seeds they're trying to plant in their communities. I'm looking forward to watching both of them grow, along with the other teams in our region. Chattanooga Red Wolves as well. They'll be hitting the field. They don't play in week 1, do they? No, they're on the road in week 1.
They're on the road.
Yeah, that's right. We'll be covering USL League 1, just like we do with USL Championship. The USL Championship in 10. The latest one will come out this afternoon. USL League 1 in 10 will be on Thursdays, and we'll have a preview edition this week to kind of get you set for the league. It's a really interesting bridge, I think, and you have some independent clubs that are going to be doing things in a very similar fashion to a USL Championship team, and you have Toronto and Orlando and North Texas, which is affiliated with FC Dallas, who are going to be doing this team as opposed to a USL Championship level USL affiliate. I think these are going to be a little more closely tied to the academy, and it's going to be a much younger group for the MLS affiliated teams in USL League One. But I don't know if the independent USL League One teams will be quite as young. It's a gap that needed to be filled. It's something that the USL has done before with having 2 divisions of professional teams in their league. This isn't new for the league. It's new at the level of standards that they are working with. And I'm really excited about it, not just because we have some teams really close by that we'll be checking in on quite often, but it's a gap that needed to be filled because you're bringing professional soccer to Statesboro, to Greenville, to Chattanooga, which, yes, has had Chattanooga FC, which has operated on a very professional level for the NPSL. And they will be professional in the NPSL Founders Cup and the pro division of NPSL that will completely kick off next year. They'll have the Founders Cup tournament this fall that will be like a small league type of format. You have the NISA as well that is getting started. They're kind of going more at big markets. I think League One is a little unique because you have this league with its standards operating in some markets, not all, because you do have Toronto, you do have Orlando, you do have North Texas, which is operating out of Frisco. But you have others that are in markets where you haven't had professional soccer. Tucson is another one. Madison, Wisconsin is another one. it's also a landing spot for some clubs that the USL Championship, the budgets that were required there, it just didn't work financially for that ownership group. Doesn't mean that pro soccer can't work in that market, just didn't work at that level. Richmond Kickers, prime example. Penn FC, Rochester Rhinos, both set up to come back in 2020 in USL League One. I think it's a good in-between step between League Two and your amateur/semi-pro level and your USL Championship level, which is getting better and better every year. You needed this division, and it fills a big need in American soccer. So I'm excited to see it kick off Friday night.
Yep, and for those internationally, USL League One signed a deal with YouTube. So YouTube will be airing the matches internationally as well. So it's another step for the league there. And if you haven't seen the Tormenta video, would recommend it. It's about 1:40. And when you get to hear Irk Russell and you get to see the note from Nitra Van Tassel on the underside of the kit, it's a very neat touch, and they definitely hit a home run. I will be down there starting tomorrow, actually. The groundbreaking for the stadium is set for tomorrow afternoon, and they're also going to have some announcements of the tenants in and around stadium proper. So there's going to be some shovels that will be moved on Wednesday at about 5:30, and then I'll be down there for the remainder of the week and be there for the match on Friday night because it's history and it's cool.
Well, Katie Weaver chimes in. As a Furman grad who's taken in many a rivalry Furman versus Georgia Southern football game, I can tell you Greenville has no love for Statesboro. Should be a fun
there you
match.
Go. Nice.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun rivalry because I haven't seen anything about Greenville fans traveling down, but I hope they do. No. And I think you'll see some Tormenta fans that will travel up to Greenville for the return leg later this year. So that's going to be a fun one. And I think you're going to see more situations where there are some teams in USL Championship that look at USL League One and say, you know what, that might be a better fit for me. And I do think you are going to see promotion relegation between the two. I do. I think you're going to see that in the next few years. I think it's something that Jake Edwards, president of USL, has mentioned. He's not ruling it out. With everything under the USL umbrella, you can do that, and you can do it in a controlled way where clubs aren't going to go out of business, which is the number one issue that you have to focus on here. I think it's really important. I want to see how USL League One grows. I want to see what gaps it fills in the pyramid, and I want to see over time. I think they're going to start with a League Cup in USL between League One and Championship teams, and I think they've said that could even start as early as next year. But I do believe you will see promotion relegation between USL Championship and USL League One, and I think that is a little bit of a test case for what MLS could do down the road.
And, with the growth of the sport, we've seen it plug into the markets. But, yeah, I want to see how this idea of promotion relegation comes to the fore. And you want to make sure, since you're doing it in your own elements of the USL, that the teams that would be promoted from League One are as financially sound as they can be, so they don't struggle and end up yo-yos.
But that's where, if you're doing it in USL, you have that built in. This is not a situation of an NPSL team coming into USL and then having to live up to standards that they weren't living up to. The standards, I think, for a USL League One team and a USL Championship team are not dramatically different, especially on the financial side. So I think that's where it's different. If you were talking about D3 league that's owned by person X and a D2 league that's owned by person Y and they operate in different ways, I'm with you. I think you really have to worry about yo-yo effects. But this is not your pro rel from other countries if it's done in USL. It's two teams under the same umbrella, and you can handle it differently. I think there's going to be more safeguards in place.
And that, for me, is... Eichmann had a good point.
Okay.
since you uttered the phrase that shall not be named, where was the air horn?
What, pro row?
Yeah.
Well, we don't have the gong anymore. It was the gong. Jarrett stole the gong. He took it. He took the gong when he left. I blame Jarrett.
There you go. I'm down with that. So
and we've moved past that now because we can have legitimate conversations about it without lots of yelling and black helicopters coming swirling in and all that.
Well, that's on other things. But no, it's going to be fun to be down in Statesboro and see the Tormenta Magenta going at it, and to see the birth of something. And I think that's been one of the cool things about this show in the last 2+ years is that we've been able to see growth up close and personal and see how things are continuing to evolve here in the Southeast anyway from our base, and just see how the sport continues to germinate in a lot of other places in and around the country. So, it's going to be fun to see League One come online. And if you're anywhere close to any of these teams, go out and support them as well. And yeah, Greenville, Chattanooga, and Tormenta for me, that's going to be a fun triangle.
All right, what else do we have on the Twitters on a Tuesday Thoughts edition of the show?
Tafka with another thought. Aside from confidence/pride/ coaching justification / trophy,
that's a lot of
is
slashes.
there anything? Yeah. Is there anything at stake in the Gold Cup this year? Normally it would be a Confederations Cup berth, but that's gone, right?
There's a lot on stake for the Gold Cup. One, winning the freaking trophy. This is not, I don't know. I think
it's aside from trophy.
Well, but that's why you play, to win the trophy.
You play to win the game.
That's what you're doing. There's that giant, crazy trophy that you're trying to lift at the end that might take 2 or 3 people. That's it. That's enough. I don't know what else you need. I mean, Confederations Cup, yes, that factored into it, but it looks like the Confederations Cup has gone bye-bye. So you're playing to win the thing. You're playing to, I think in this case, reestablish that you're a legitimate power in CONCACAF. Because you need to. Because right now you're not. I don't think it needs to be anything more at all. Now, from a very big picture standpoint, where you take the trophy out of it, yeah, you're trying to build confidence. Yeah, you're trying to figure out what's going to work for you when you get into CONCACAF Nations League in the fall and World Cup qualifiers. But this is where CONCACAF is, and what's tricky about it is that Tafka's not the only person who's like, it's the Gold Cup, it's not that big of a deal. It has to be a big deal. It's the Continental Championship. Now, I think they need to do what Europe does and not have 2 in-between World Cups. They need to have 1. And what I would love to see is that you have a Gold Cup, you have a Copa America, and then you have a combined South American, North American tournament in the gap between World Cups. I'd love to see that happen because then I think you get good competition. Now, the Gold Cup, sure. USA Curaçao, not a great test. Over time, I'd love to see that become a better test. And it doesn't happen without playing the matches and without all of the things that CONCACAF's doing to increase the level across the Confederation. But, yeah, I mean, it's a trophy, and it's one that you need to win because it says you're the best team in North America. And it's the biggest trophy that you can win on a regular basis outside of a World Cup. So you better dominate it. And if you're not, you really can't claim a whole lot. And that's what I think you're trying to do. For a while there, the U.S. was the best team in CONCACAF. Mexico right now is the best team in CONCACAF. We'll find out who's the best team in CONCACAF at the end of the summer.
A couple of other national team thoughts before we go to break here. Eichmann says that he definitely wants to see Christian Ramirez over jubilantly jumping Jossie. And then regarding...
Yeah, I would too. I'm cool with that because of where you're at right now. Ramirez is just such an interesting one. Like, I think he's good. Is he starting level good in MLS? I'm not 100% sure. Depends on the team. He's not number one written in stone in LAFC right now. He wasn't that in Minnesota either. Is he that with the national team? No, I don't think so. But a good performance tonight maybe changes some of the narrative around him. It's a game that doesn't mean anything outside of players improving their standing. So, yeah, I would like to see him start too.
And then Eichmann, regarding Jonathan Gonzalez, he was with the USMNT, then played for FC Dallas, but did I hear he's back with
Jesse
the national
Gonzalez
team? Sorry, Jesse.
Yeah. Jonathan Gonzalez made his big switch to play for Mexico. He can't come back. So Jesse Gonzalez with the U.S. national team. Did he go back to Dallas? I missed that one if that was the case. Let me confirm. Yeah, he went back. So, I mean, they're in Houston. Could he be there as a number 2 or number 3? Yeah, I mean, he could start too. I mean, it's not the goalkeeper is a little bit different situation with playing games after games on the weekend. So, he could be there. I think it's probably Horvath who gets the time anyway. I think Gonzalez was there mainly for the training side of it and understanding what Greg Berhalter's wanting out of his goalkeepers, which is more than I think managers in the past have. Brad Kazan and his feature that Felipe Cardenas wrote over at The Athletic talked about that, and Berhalter talked about that. So go check that out. I think Gonzalez is there to be the number 3. He could be there. I mean, it's not too far for him to get back over there. So he could be there, and I don't think he plays tonight unless it's an emergency situation. I think it's Ethan Horvath.
Jim Lepp with a hot take.
Uh-oh.
Jim Lepp, I have a hot take for you. 10 years from now, looking back at the squad, will show how Tyler Adams is the premier player of his generation. I posit his ceiling is higher than anyone else in this player pool.
Huh. Could be. I think Christian Pulisic is the one that could make that incorrect. I think Pulisic and what we've seen so far from him, he's up there for most talented U.S. men's national team players ever. I mean, just the fact, the money that was just spent for him. American players have never been in that conversation before. So that's why I think Jim's hot take might be incorrect. It's just because of the presence of Christian Pulisic. Adams also plays a position that doesn't get quite as much respect, whichever position you want to put him at, if it's the hybrid or if it's a holding midfield role. I think Adams has more room to grow from where he is to where he can be than Pulisic. I think Pulisic can get better. I think Adams can take a big leap, and we'll have to see if that happens. You never know, and that's what's so hard about it, is you can see a kid come up, you can see them get their first professional minutes. It looks like it's all good, and sometimes things go off the rails. And it can be something completely unrelated to his situation with his club. It can be something off the field. It can be lots of things. Could Adams be that? Yes, he could. I think if that happens, then that means that Christian Pulisic did not develop further as we expect him to. And that would be a bad thing in the long run. I think Adams can be right there with Pulisic, with McKennie, with others who are coming through, and be in that conversation as one of the best American players of all time. He has more room to grow to get there, whereas Pulisic is already in that conversation right now, and with the career that we expect, will solidify that. I think Adams still has to get into the conversation first. But Lepp's right. He could be that guy. I think his ceiling is extremely high, and he's nowhere near it yet.
And then Tafka responding to getting you fired up. He says, Train smiles when I get Longshoe all riled up when I wasn't even trying. Ha with a side smile emoji. It was really just a question of whether the Gold Cup has a qualification element for other tournaments going forward.
Oh, no, it doesn't. I mean, there's nothing for it to qualify for. So if you don't have the Confederations Cup, I think there is at least some conversation happening about a FIFA Nations League, but I don't think the Confederation Championships have anything to do with it. I think the Nations League competitions do. So it's FIFA. If somebody comes at them with billions of dollars for it to qualify for something, it will. Until
hey, look,
happens,
shiny
it
object.
won't. So, no, I've always been like this about the Gold Cup. So sorry, Tafka, not riling at, getting riled up at you specifically. Just that the tournament isn't always taken as big of a deal as it should be, just in and of itself. That is down to CONCACAF. I think that's down to the way the tournament is talked about and presented, and it needs to change because, the European Championships, big deal, second biggest tournament in the world behind the World Cup. Copa America is right there, and I think for some people they would say that it's a better competition than the European Championships. I think they're both great. The Euros are a little bit bigger, so I'm going to go with that as the second biggest one. You get some just titanic matches in the Copa America that are amazing, so I love watching it as well. Gold Cup, when you get a U.S.-Mexico final, it's epic.
Ooh.
When you get an upset happen, it's epic. Jamaica, the last two, they've made the final. That's incredibly impressive for Jamaica. You'd think that would have bumped them along in terms of qualifying, and it really hasn't, which is bizarre. But the Gold Cup can be that it should be a bigger tournament than it is. And that's my frustration with it, is just like CONCACAF Champions League, in my opinion, should be bigger than it is. The Gold Cup should be bigger. The CONCACAF Nations League might help in that process as you get more meaningful matches between CONCACAF nations. It just has to grow. And it has to grow in terms of the attention, but it has to grow from the bottom and the middle, too. Like, you want to see Trinidad and Tobago be more of a challenge. You want to see Jamaica be more of a consistent challenger. You want to see an El Salvador get back to where they were in the mid-'90s. You want to see Honduras continue to build on making a couple World Cups. You want to see those things happen to raise the overall level of CONCACAF. You don't want it to just be U.S. and Mexico. You want Canada to get to where they're actually relevant. That would be amazing. I remember the first qualification cycle that I really had a chance to watch the whole thing was for 98. I saw a few of the games going into 90 when I was pretty young, but it was real hit or miss on what you could find and what you couldn't. Going into 98, you had MLS start. You had all the home games on. You had a lot of the away games on, except for a few. I had to watch one at a Salvadoran pool hall in Atlanta. That was interesting.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but Canada was in the Hex that year. I think that was the last time Canada was in the Hex. And that's crazy. Canada should be challenging U.S. and Mexico and Costa Rica and the rest. I think when those things happen, the Gold Cup becomes a bigger deal. That's all. So, sorry, I have a soft spot for the Gold Cup. That's why I get bent out of shape about it. Let's take a break here. We'll come back with more questions from you guys on a Tuesday Thoughts edition of the show right after this.
Today's show is presented by Appolinsky & Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yep, he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service, Ad Council, and your state forester.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Every hiring manager knows that a company is only as good as the people it's made from. So where do you find the best people? That may surprise you.
Meet the grads of life. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
This is talent worth knowing about.
Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
Welcome back. Soccer Down Here, Tuesday Thoughts, March 26th. Four-Card Ahmed was asking about watching Mexico-Paraguay. Univision Deportes can take care of you for that, even though their listings are really bad.
Yeah.
They're not on the listings right now.
Four-Card Ahmed can have a very busy day by not flinching from Univision Deportes. Doubleheader Euro 2020, USA Chile, Mexico Paraguay, all on one channel.
I highly recommend the website Live Soccer TV if you're looking for listings and looking for where to watch matches. They're really good and generally very accurate as to where things are. If you're looking for streams that are not necessarily kosher, you can't find those there, but you can at least find what to look for the stream, for where the broadcaster would be coming from.
See?
So there you go. Mexico, Paraguay is Univision Deportes. Little surprised there's not an English language option. That's a little disappointing. I enjoyed the Mexico games in English when they were available. If you wanted to watch Honduras, Ecuador, or Peru, El Salvador, you would have to watch on pay-per-view because, of course, you would. And it's probably $35 because, of course, it would be.
Uh-huh. Let's see. Will Palmer with a USMNT question.
Okay.
You guys said that Christian Pulisic is the only for sure roster spot. What about at keeper? I thought Zach Steffen is our keeper. Are there any other probable first choice keepers? # Tuesday Thoughts.
Greg Berhalter would probably tell you that Zach Steffen is penciled in or written in stone or Sharpie or whatever permanent thing you want to put it in. I've always been a little skeptical of that. Maybe that's just me, but I don't see any reason why Steffen could not be pushed out by Brad Kazan, by Bill Hamid, by Ethan Horvath, by Sean Johnson. I don't think Steffen has it completely on lock. I really don't. Now, he might, according to the manager, but I don't think he should. I think there are other goalkeepers who can push him, and I think there are some things about Steffen's game that you have to look at. And right now, what I'm going to be looking at is when he goes to Manchester City, what are they going to do with him?
Yeah.
Where's he going to play? Because if he's not playing, is that going to be good for him? Is he going to be in good form? I don't know. I'm really curious to see what happens next with Zach Steffen, but I don't think he's a lock at goalkeeper. I think there's other guys who can push him.
Why do I think he gets loaned out to something like the A-League?
They don't loan guys to the A-League generally, so no, that's not going to happen.
Or one of their other properties.
Well, they loan guys to clubs that are not one of their properties. I mean, he could get loaned to a championship team. He could get loaned to Girona, a club that they're friendly with. There's other clubs that he could go to that would be completely fine. They could loan him to a club in Belgium. They could loan him to a club in the Netherlands, and it'd be good for him. And that's not a problem. But where he goes and how much he plays is going to be a big part of it. So, I don't know. I don't think Steffen is quite where everybody else sees him, and that just could be my issues with it. So, Berhalter might tell you that he is on the lineup sheet no matter what. I would think there's other guys who might be able to knock him out of that role if his form drops. I think Pulisic plays even if he's in a bad run of form. That's the difference for me, is you expect him to play through it and play out of it, whereas you have other options at goalkeeper that you'd turn to. Just my opinion, though.
Yeah, no, I've locked in on the gentleman named Gazan as one of the guys that could unseat Zach Steffen as the quote-unquote number one in that list of guys that you had.
People would say is that when you look at what Berhalter wants his goalkeepers to do, maybe Gazan is not that guy. And I think his distribution is better than he gets credit for, but Brad Gazan is more of a traditional old school kind of keeper than the sweeper keeper that is in vogue these days. So that could hurt him. I think it's a shame. I mean, it was kind of always understood that when Tim Howard retired that it would be Brad Gazan's opportunity, and it looks like he might get past. And nothing that he did wrong. It's just you do have a great talent in Zach Steffen coming up and others. I hope he gets that opportunity because I think Brad would perform just fine in that opportunity, but we'll see. And you have a guy in Steffen who has played under Berhalter for a couple of years now. He's very familiar to him, so it would make sense for him to be the first choice. But I don't think it's as much of a lock as Christian Pulisic.
Right. Shiva says, from an Atlanta United perspective, we've had more players on international duty than the crew. Just for that reason, I might have to lower my expectations for Saturday. #Tuesday Thoughts.
But the crew have had 3 very important ones in Zardes and Trapp and Waylon Francis. That's where I'm looking at it a little differently. Joseph Martinez did start yesterday. Not sure how long he went in that unofficial friendly with Catalonia. Tito Villalba did not play in the first game for Paraguay. We'll see if he plays tonight. Pity Martinez played 45. He's coming back injured. Is he going to be ready to give you anything on the weekend? We'll have to wait and see. Trapp is the one for Columbus that if he goes tonight and he plays 60-plus minutes, it will affect his performance on Saturday. I do think it will. And he's the one that they can least afford to have his performance compromised. That's where I'm at with it anyway. And Zach Steffen. I mean, Zach Steffen's been injured. He would have been with the national team. He did not play over the weekend, and Joe Bendick did, and Joe Bendick gave up a horrible goal to the near post. Oh. Horrible. And you did see a #Bendick face.
Yes, you did.
It was a horrible goal to give up. If Steffen's not there, that changes things for Columbus. So I would wait and see. I think it's very early. I think you need to get through tonight's games for sure to see how teams are going to look coming back out of the break between Atlanta and Columbus anyway.
And also on the board, Bartimus Prime, who catches us up on Life on the Twitters. What are the ideal away trips from the potential CONCACAF Nations League opponents for USMNT fans? I got to go with Cuba and Canada at Soccer Down Here.
Let's pull this up so we can talk about the Nations League since it's new. So the whole process was part of qualifying for 2019 Gold Cup, which is up to 16 teams now from 12. It's growing. It's good. The Nations League, the qualifying is now done, and you had 34 teams compete to get into League A, League B, and League C. The League A teams were already filled in with your 6 teams from the Hex. So you have 12 teams in League A. You have the teams who participated in World Cup qualifying last time around, and you have the teams that qualified in the qualification process that happened with 4 matches. So it's kind of weird, but you're going to have promotion relegation between the League A, B, and C teams. Your seeding, you have Pot A with Mexico, U.S., Costa Rica, Honduras. So those are your seeded teams in the 4 groups, and you're going to play 4 matches. So it's 4 groups of 3 in League A. So the U.S. could be drawn with either Panama, Canada, Haiti, or Trinidad and Tobago out of Pot 2. Which one would I pick to go to? Mike Conti talks about Panama quite a bit. I think he either did a trip there, he might have done his honeymoon in Panama. So he's big on Panama. He was hoping we would see a Panamanian team in CONCACAF Champions League. We did not. Canada, they'd probably play it at either Toronto or Vancouver. That's generally where they've been playing their national team games. I mean, I guess they could play it at Montreal too, but they don't play as many national team games in Montreal. Haiti and Trinidad and Tobago. Trinidad and Tobago would be a really cool trip.
Yes.
So I think that one's a little bit of a toss-up. Pot 3 is where it gets interesting because the U.S. could be drawn with Cuba, which, yes, it would be played in Havana, and that would be really cool to see now that things are opening up. It could be in Martinique, it could be in Curacao, or it could be in Bermuda.
Ooh.
Any of those are really interesting. Whoever you get out of Pot 3 would be a cool trip.
Yeah, because Curacao, Bermuda, I mean, that's strong. That's across the board. I don't think you can go wrong with any of those.
So CONCACAF's going big with this thing. The draw for the group phase will take place at the Chelsea, the Cosmopolitan of Las Vegas, in Vegas, tomorrow. It will be at, is that 10 o'clock? Yeah, 10 o'clock Eastern. I believe Univision Deportes will broadcast it. It'll probably be on Yahoo Sports as well. That's where we'll learn who it is. The first games will be played in September of 2019. So then what happens in League A is your group winners will go on to a semifinal and a final, which will be in March. In the March international window, you'll have a semifinal and a final for the CONCACAF Nations League. So you'll have the 4 games in the group played in September, October, and the November international windows in 2019. Then you'll have your final in March of 2020. Pretty cool. Your last place team in each group will get relegated to League B.
Okay.
So there you go. And in League B, they have 16 teams. The group winners will get promoted to League A. And same going forward into League C. Your group winners will get promoted to League B. Your last place teams in League B will get relegated to League C. So League B, Jamaica is your top-ranked team in it. El Salvador, Nicaragua, French Guiana are your 4 seeded teams for each group. Guatemala falls all the way to League C, which is crazy. Because they are actually the 8th ranked team in CONCACAF, but their qualification was very, very bad. So your seeded teams in League C are Guatemala, Guadalupe, Bonaire, and Barbados.
Bonaire?
Bonaire is a new one. Wow. It is the national football team of the Caribbean island of Bonaire, a public body of the Netherlands. Became a full CONCACAF member on June 10th, 2014. They are not a member of FIFA. So you have a few of these in CONCACAF where, like this one, it's a public body of the Netherlands. So they are not a member of FIFA, but they're a member of CONCACAF. Does Martinique fall into that? I believe so. Guadalupe does, where you can't qualify for the World Cup, but you can play in the Gold Cup. I'm not sure how many other confederations around the world have that, but CONCACAF has quite a few.
Oh, Joseph played 60 against Catalonia.
Okay. So he played a combined 80 minutes or so over the break. Not too bad. And I saw he posted a picture on his Instagram that he's coming home. So CONCACAF Nations League is going to be fun. Again, I would like to watch some of the League B and League C games because they're crazy. Saint Martin and Saint Martin will battle it out again.
Yes.
Or no, they won't. No, sorry. They're in the same pot, so they will not play in CONCACAF Nations League. That's a shame.
Martinique is an overseas department of the French Republic, not a member of FIFA, and is therefore not eligible to enter the FIFA World Cup or any competition organized firsthand by the organization. However, they are a member of CONCACAF and CFU and is eligible for all competitions organized by both organizations.
It's really weird how this stuff goes down because Puerto Rico can qualify for the World Cup. I don't know.
As a Commonwealth.
Okay. So, well, the most important thing is they're a member of FIFA. Like, if you're not a member of FIFA, you can't qualify for the World Cup. FIFA has some interesting rules on who's eligible to be a member and who's not.
All of their rules are interesting and malleable.
If checks cash, rules can be bent. That is how FIFA operates.
That's what I'm saying. That's why they're malleable.
Yes. Let's take a break here. We'll get into more Tuesday thoughts right after these.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA is a national nonprofit working to transform youth and high school sports so that every child has a positive character-building youth sports experience. PCA provides live and online workshops to train double goal coaches whose first goal is winning and whose second, more important goal is teaching life lessons through sports. PCA also has workshops for parents and high school student athletes. For more information, please visit positivecoach.org.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinsky of Apolinsky & Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. This cat makes me make art. He's always motivating me to draw pictures of him. He just is motivating artistically. He's my best friend, but a lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
Keyboard Cat, YouTube star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Start yours today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
Welcome back. Soccer Down here, chatting during the break, trying to figure out FIFA's rules. There are none that really make any sense.
Yeah.
So we just
17 substitutions in Catalonia and Venezuela.
Well, that game wasn't even FIFA, so you can't even blame that one on FIFA. That's just a game between two teams that showed up and played in front of people. So
it's like,
really
yo, dog, you want to play? Sure. You want to play? Okay. We're just going to swap dudes out. So they did.
Welcome to friendlies. I mean, it happens. It doesn't matter. So there you go. That's where you're at. Things that do matter. MLS, you've had a couple of guys show up in the league in the last week or so. Toronto had their media availability with Alejandro Pozuelo, their new designated player. And I love the quote from Victor Vasquez that made the rounds yesterday. Victor Vasquez called Pozuelo a young Victor Vasquez. That's swag.
There you go.
That's swagger right there from Victor Vasquez. It did, I think, probably help Toronto along. And, wow, this guy is something. Because I think he is replacing Vasquez more than he's replacing Giovinco. He might play on Friday against NYC. NYC has their forward. I don't know if he's going to be ready to play. Eber, he is Brazilian, came over from Croatian club HNK Rijeka. $3 million, not a bad deal. Good speed, movement off the ball, according to the scouting reports. He's played a lot on the wing with Rijeka lately, but primarily played as a striker before that. They had to get somebody. So is this he's available, let's get him, or is this a move that you're happy with? NYC, I don't know. I want to see them for a month or maybe 6 weeks before I have a better sense of what they're going to be. I do like Mitricha. I think he is legit, and he's a star. We'll see about Eber, and we'll see how long it takes for it to all come together. The question I have right now, and I didn't realize what was going on here, and I don't know if anybody really knows, with the Red Bulls. Franco Panizzo over at SBI Soccer had an article that popped up. Kamar Lawrence, remember him? left back, one of the best in the league. He was used as a sub in the season opener in the Dominican Republic against Atletico Pantoja, and then you haven't seen him since. He's been training. Chris Armas has said he's going full go in training. Hasn't played. Hasn't even been in the 18 a lot. Well, he played 90 for Jamaica against El Salvador in a CONCACAF Nations League qualifier. He might play tonight against Costa Rica in a friendly. What?
Uh-huh.
What?
Yes.
This is from the article by Panizzo over at SBI Soccer. Sources have told SBI that Lawrence initially had an injury setback that was not publicly disclosed following his 44-minute appearance in the club's CONCACAF Champions League showdown with Atletico Pantoja on February 20th. The Red Bulls wanted to be more cautious with him in the immediate aftermath and chose to not use him in the ensuing matches in an attempt to ensure he would not seriously injure the knee again. And Jamaica felt otherwise. So I have all the questions, like all of them, about this. If he's injured, why did you allow him to go play in these matches?
Yes.
Now, one was a CONCACAF Nations League qualifier, which if he's called up, he has to go unless he's injured. Was he injured or was he not injured? Jamaica felt like he was not injured. He played 90 minutes. Now, tonight's a friendly. The club could recall him. They haven't. Why haven't they played him? What's going on? Like, it doesn't make any sense.
What's the deal with that?
There's no deal, because if he was injured, you don't let him go.
No.
If he's not injured, why didn't you play him?
Uh-huh.
I don't understand what's going on here with the Red Bulls. It doesn't make any sense. And Panizzo's article, goes on to say that the Red Bulls aren't happy with the way Jamaica's handled it. I don't know how the Red Bulls have handled it. That's the thing that I just can't figure out. Why do you let him go if you've held him out injured? And if he goes and he plays 90 and haven't heard anything about any issues coming out of that, then why have you not been playing him?
Right.
And does this lead to issues down the road? Because none of it has any logic attached to it.
Or is it already an issue?
I don't know. I mean, it's bizarre. So keep an eye on Kamar Lawrence tonight with Jamaica against Costa Rica. If he plays again, I mean, you have to be asking some pretty serious questions of the Red Bulls and Chris Armas and the technical director as to why have you not played him if he was okay to go play 90-plus minutes and maybe 180, or at least, 90 and another 45 for the Jamaican national team during this break, and you haven't wanted to use him or even put him in the 18. If there was a setback after the February 20th appearance, why didn't you say that? I don't know. It doesn't make any sense here. So we'll have to wait and see how this plays out. But it is a story to keep an eye on. Another two to keep an eye on are Bobby Wood. He's on loan at Hanover 96. Doesn't look like they're going to make the purchase at the end of the loan. Hamburg is trying to find a buyer in MLS, according to reports out of Bild in Germany. They haven't found anyone who will pay the price they're asking for. How flexible are they going to be on the price, and who could use a player like Bobby Wood? I would have said NYCFC, but now maybe not. Although they could get him on a discount, maybe, if they can find that number that matches with Hamburg. Who else in MLS could use a forward like Bobby Wood? A guy who has talent, has potential, has been very inconsistent. I would say a hard worker. I think he gives you a good work rate in a match, just not always getting that final bit of quality. Where could you see him landing in the league?
Well, and now are we talking just in general, or am I having to fit him into a coach and a system?
I mean, he's going to have to play, so yes, and a coach and a system.
Well, I mean, for me, I'd go Vancouver, I'd go Colorado.
Colorado would be a good call, although they do have a number of forwards, and you have Kai Kamara. I think that would be the issue is they might already have answered that question. Vancouver, I don't know yet. They have Freddie Montero, so maybe not. I look at Portland. Now, Portland's tried to get other guys. They tried for a couple of different guys from Tigres, haven't been able to pull it off. Now, Bobby Wood is not going to be at the number that they were offering for players out of Tigres. But if you can't get anybody and you've made the decision that Ebobisse is not the guy up top on a regular basis, depending on what you'd have to pay to get Bobby Wood, I think it would make a lot of sense for Portland. And I think
is this the DP that Brad Friedel's looking for?
Brad Friedel, I don't think, has known him for many, many years. Maybe he has. I don't know. Actually, yeah, maybe he has, because Friedel did coach the US U19s. I don't know if there was any overlap there, but no, because that wouldn't. Well, actually, yeah, it could fit, but I don't think that's what they need. They added Caicedo up top, so I don't think they really need the forward per se. I don't know if he's the one. I mean, if he's the one that Brad Friedel's talking about, then wow, that's some overselling.
What about the purple team?
They have a guy up top. They have a guy they've committed a lot to up top. Unless you're going to play him out wide or something. I think it's Portland. I think Portland's the one right now that would make the most sense, because they've tried to get a forward. They don't have one. You might have to settle a little bit here, but I think Wood would fit with Savarese. I think he's that hard worker up top, and I think he'd give you enough. And in Portland, you're not asking him to score 30 goals. You're asking him to be a presence. You're asking him to work hard. You're asking him to create space for Valeri, for Sebastian Blanco. I think he'd be a really good fit for the Timbers, actually. He's not as the high, big-name guy that they were looking for, but I think he'd be a really good fit for them. The Galaxy are trying to get another center back, Costa Rican international Giancarlo Gonzalez. Played half a year with Columbus before moving to Serie A. He's at Bologna right now. Some reports have this as a done deal. If the Galaxy get him and he plays the way that we have seen him, and I have not studied his career in Italy, maybe Nick Alifi can chime in here if he's seen much of Giancarlo Gonzalez.
Hello.
But Gonzalez came to the league, lit it up with Columbus, and then lit it up at the World Cup and was gone. Didn't even stay for a whole year because Columbus got a great deal, and they sold him. It was smart business for them. The Galaxy need upgrades. On paper, he's a big upgrade. If he is that, the Galaxy are a team that there are really no excuses for them not to be a contender. Now, the one excuse that could keep them from being a contender is Zlatan's Achilles. We'll have to keep an eye on that one.
Welcome to Zlatan's Achilles.
Well, that might not be a good story. So we'll see how that goes. But, yeah, this is a smart move for the Galaxy if they get him, and I think it makes them a much, much better team defensively. Let's take our final break here. Final call for questions on a Tuesday. Thoughts doesn't have to be a question. It can just be a thought. Tweet at us at Soccer Down Here, and we'll get to those right after this.
Today's show is presented by Appolinsky & Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service Ad Council and your state forester.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. 888-848-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Every hiring manager knows that a company is only as good as the people it's made from. So where do you find the best people? That may surprise you.
Meet the grads of life. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
This is talent worth knowing about.
Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
Final segment, Tuesday Thoughts edition of Soccer Down Here. Lots of thoughts. John, you had a thought. You were trying to formulate said thought. What is your thought?
Okay. You and I, over the weekend, were watching the same game from different locations. It was the New York Red Bulls 2 match against Nashville in the USL Championship. And John Wolenek is the head coach of Red Bulls 2.
Yes.
Instilling a system for Red Bulls players to be prepared for the next level and all that kind of stuff.
So Red Bulls / Metro Stars legend in John Wolenek.
Yes. So he's coaching. And he had a guy on the bench that was not an assistant coach, was not a part of his starting 18, and is another coach entirely for a team that he's kind of close to. Chris Armas was sitting on the bench for the Red Bulls 2 Nashville SC match. And it kind of weirded me out a little bit. Why, if you are the head coach of an MLS team, are you sitting on the bench watching your USL Championship team do their thing? I know that Montclair doesn't have, an all-22 and suites and things like that, but you can get up into the top row and maybe you can see things that way. But it just kind of weirded me out because if it was me and I was younger, I would probably sit there and think that, why is this guy watching over my shoulder? Why is he watching me coach? And so it was just a weird vibe that I got that whole time watching Red Bulls 2 and Nashville SC with the coach of the MLS team sitting on the bench of the USL Championship. And now I know that, Wolenek is probably just like, yeah, whatever, dude, sit wherever you want. But for me, it would have weirded me out entirely, like the guy's looking over my shoulder or something.
Yeah, it was strange. I didn't listen to that whole broadcast. It was the game was hosted by Red Bulls 2, so it was the New York call, David Goss and Mike Grella. David Goss from MLSsoccer.com and Mike Grella, one of the most talented players to ever play in this country in terms of just straight-up skills and creativity. Injuries just kept derailing his career. So they were on the call. Did they acknowledge that it was Chris Armas? Because I saw it, and when they cut to the bench, like Armas was right in the shot, and I was like, whoa, okay, that's weird.
Yeah, no, I had the sound down because there were other games that I was watching. So I don't know how it was addressed by David and Mike. I'm sure it was just, something where they acknowledged that he's sitting there where Chris Armas is. Oh, and there's New York Red Bulls coach Chris Armas. But I don't know if they went anywhere past that. David, if you're listening, help us out.
Yeah, give us a heads up, and let us know if that's a normal thing.
Let us know.
If that's a normal thing, cool. If that's just the way that they operate, that's cool. It was just a little strange. Yeah, I was like, wait a minute, that's not typical because, Frank de Boer's been at Atlanta United 2's first 2 home games, and fans have seen him and talked to him and interacted with him, but he hasn't been anywhere near the bench. He's been in a box. He's been away from everything and letting Stephen Glass do his thing where he is.
He could come in the booth if he wants.
He could if he wants to. If he wants to join us, he could. It doesn't mean that Armas was doing anything to interfere, just that he was there. It was just a little strange seeing it. I was actually listening to, I synced it up, the radio call for Nashville on 94.9 Game 2 out of Nashville. Wes Bowling and Braden Gall were on the call. Really cool to see radio for USL Championship.
Yes.
Wes and Braden were on this one. Louisville had one of the craziest radio stories. This is not something that Mike Conti and I are ever going to replicate.
No.
Their announcer rode a bike from Louisville to Kennesaw to call that game.
And made it with time to spare.
Yeah, a bicycle. I'm not doing that.
Yeah. No. That's strong. You tip your hat to the kid. That's a tremendous work rate, and you mapped it out. That's on you. That's no chance for me to ever pull something like that off.
Yeah, I do not have that one. I don't have that one at all. It's not happening. So I was trying to give him proper credit, and I cannot find his Twitter handle, unfortunately. But that's two teams in USL Championship that have radio calls. Very cool to see alongside the TV call. And Nashville has a great TV call as well, and they have local TV, and they have ESPN+. So awesome to see this stuff growing. Couple things as we finish up. So USL League One, you can watch all that on ESPN+, starting Friday night from Statesboro. I'll be watching that for sure. You can also watch it if you're international, and we do have a few international listeners. You can watch that on YouTube internationally. So much coming back into a full week of MLS, USL Championship, now USL League One. So many games this weekend. And it starts Friday. You have the game in Statesboro, USL League One. You also have Toronto hosting NYCFC with Pozuelo making his debut, likely for Toronto, potentially with Hebert making his debut for NYC. Two teams that we've talked about in the Eastern Conference a lot that they should be good. They might be good. We don't know if we believe they're going to be good yet. So that's a huge game on Friday night. Be checking both of those out before an early morning flight to Columbus on Saturday to get ready for the Crew and Atlanta United from Mopfre Stadium. So big week coming. We'll talk a lot about US and Chile. They play tonight. 7:55 is the broadcast time on ESPN2. I'm assuming kick would be at 8:10, 8:15 or so then. And then right after that, you have Mexico and Paraguay as well, and that'll be on Univision Deportes. So we'll be talking about all that tomorrow on a Wall Pass Wednesday. We'll talk especially about any effects
Fantasy
from these
League.
matches for... We're going to talk about Fantasy League tomorrow as well. Jason Wright, the commissioner, sent us an update. We'll get into that tomorrow. We got sidetracked with all kinds of chaos and CONCACAF and Tafka getting me riled up about CONCACAF. I blame Tafka. Commish. I blame Tafka. We'll talk about the Fantasy League tomorrow. I think we'll have a better sense, too, of, okay, who's coming back from the international break, who's played a lot of minutes, who you might want to leave out of your lineup because they might not either be 100% sharp or they might not be 100% fit for this weekend's matches. We'll get into all that in the second hour tomorrow, along with all of your Wall Pass Wednesday questions. Thanks, everybody, for listening. We appreciate it. Thanks for all the interaction this morning. Always fun talking soccer with you guys. Mucha plata, y'all.
Mucha plata.